Hi, my name is David Chad, and I'm the owner of Reviation Industries. We're a screen printing company located in Upland, California. We produce custom shirts for small, medium, and large size organizations, and we've been doing this for about 12 years. About a month ago, we were the victims of about $40,000 in credit card fraud, where an individual used stolen credit card information to purchase shirts from us. Now, I had thought that in the event of fraud, that the credit card companies or the credit card processors are not going to hold the merchant responsible because the merchant wasn't responsible. The merchant didn't do anything. But as it turns out, I was wrong, and the merchant is responsible for the stolen credit card fraud amount. Let me tell you a little bit more about what happened. We were contacted by an individual through our website, and he said that he wanted to purchase some shirts from us, so we negotiated a price and we sent him an invoice. He paid with a credit card, and then a few days later, the money, as per usual with a credit card transaction, showed up in our account. We took a part of that money and used it to purchase the shirts in order to satisfy the order. We shipped the shirts to him to the address he provided, and he was perfectly fine. He was happy. So he wanted to do it again, and we did a second order, and again, money shows up in our account, purchase the shirts, send it to him, he receives them, everything is fine. And then he wants to do a third order, and this third order was a little larger, but by this time we had established a rapport with him, and so we really didn't think anything of it. And so we started the process, we purchased the shirts, and we shipped them, and during that time, we received a chargeback from the first order that he had submitted. And a chargeback occurs when the credit card customer sees a transaction on their statement that they don't recognize. They tell the credit card issuing bank that they don't recognize this charge. Then the credit card issuing bank will automatically have the funds withdrawn from the merchant's account. And it becomes a dispute, and then the merchant has to file a response to the dispute. So it's a little complicated, and it took me a little while to wrap my head around it. And so let me show you a little bit more of the details. A credit card transaction has a customer and a merchant, obviously, but there's also this business that's called a credit card processor. They organize the details of a credit card transaction for a business. Most importantly is moving money between the credit card issuing bank and the merchant's bank. And the merchant's bank, of course, is the bank that the merchant uses to access the funds. When a customer is ready to order, they reach out to the merchant, they come to an agreement, and the merchant then tells the processor to send the customer an invoice. Then the customer uses a credit card to pay. The processor organizes moving the money from the credit card issuing bank to the merchant's bank. Then the merchant uses some of that money to satisfy the order. And in our case, to buy shirts. We ship the shirts to the customer receives the shirts, customer's happy. And was so happy that he wanted to do this several other times. So in our case, we did 3 transactions. And it was after the third transaction that we received the chargeback. Now, a chargeback is when the actual cardholder sees a charge on their account that they don't recognize. So they notify their card issuing bank. The card issuing bank notifies the processor. Then the processor automatically goes into the merchant's bank account and takes the amount of money out that was deposited several weeks prior for that transaction. The money goes back to the credit card customer's account, and then the merchant has an opportunity to respond to this dispute. But in cases of fraud, I'm told, the merchant generally loses and then becomes obligated to pay that amount to the processor. After all this had happened, we realized that who we thought was a customer was actually a thief. We had spent most of the money from the transaction to buy shirts to send to the thief. So when the processor came to get the money out of our account for the chargeback, there wasn't very much there for them to get. So then the processor goes into a really aggressive collection mode, not seeming to care at all that fraud was involved, and that our business was the victim, where they're coming after the business for the amount of the transaction, plus extra fees that they impose because of the chargeback. And if the merchant can't pay, then they'll go after the owner, even if the merchant is a corporation, because a processor usually requires the owner or owners to sign what's called a personal guarantee, that they, the owner, will be responsible for what the merchant owes the processor. This means that if the business can't pay, I will have to pay $40,000 plus fees. So now that hopefully the process is a little bit more clear, let me tell you where we're at in our particular situation. So full disclosure, we were able to recover about $20,000 of the $40,000 in fraud. And we've been negotiating with the credit card processor, and the credit card processor has given us a couple of options. One of the options is to settle the amount for 80 cents on the dollar, but it has to be a one-time payment. And we still owe, or we will owe about $20,000, and so 80% of $20,000 is $16,000. So if we can cut them a check for $16,000, then they'll call the matter closed. They have also told us that if we want to propose a settlement amount, that we can certainly do that, but we have no idea what they're going to accept, if they're going to accept 20 cents on the dollar, 50 cents on the dollar, or if they're going to stand firm at 80 cents on the dollar. The second option that they've given us is to make monthly payments for a year. But if we do that, we're going to have to pay the full amount. So we'll have to pay the full $20,000 over the next 12 months, which is going to be about $1,700 per month. So all of the money that is raised by this campaign is going to go to pay off this debt. And if we are fortunate enough to raise more money than what the credit card companies require to settle this, then all of that money is going to be used for the business and used in the business. I really can't help but think that this entire process is extremely unfair to the merchant. The merchant has done nothing wrong. We were robbed, yet we're the ones that will have to pay for it. These companies are very powerful and they have a lot of money, yet they have worked it out through their agreements with the merchants that they have very little responsibility when it comes to fraud and the merchants. And this is extremely frustrating because I can lose my business because of it. My employees can lose their jobs. And that's why I'm doing this video. I'm asking for your help to help me close the gap between what we were able to recover and what the credit card processor still requires to satisfy the debt. But I'm also doing this video to raise awareness that the relationship that the small business owner has with their credit card processor puts them in a really vulnerable position. Now, this business really means a lot to me. We've made a lot of great shirts. We've done a lot of great work. We've got a really dedicated team. And I'd like to keep it going, but I need your help. Thanks.